I'd like to invite our panel on stage who will be speaking on Can India achieve 20% ethanol blending target by 2025, the challenges and opportunities. I'd like to invite the panel, Mr. Sridhar Goud, ED Biofuels, HPCL, Mr. Amit Agrawal, VP Bajaj Hindusthan Sugar, Mr. Sanjay Khatal, MD Maharashtra Rajya Sakhar Sangh Limited, Mr. Sanjay Awasthi, Chairman, Council and Executive Committee of ISSCT and President of the Sugar Technologists Association of India. And to moderate this session, I'd like to invite Mr. Nikhil Moghe, Partner, KPMG.
We're waiting for Mr. Awasthi ji. Yeah. Should we start in the meantime? Okay. Thank you. So, last session I always dread, to do a moderation in the last session, and I could see very few people here, but nevertheless, let's go ahead. What we'll do is maybe we'll have a quick round of introduction, and then we'll get on to the questions. We'll keep it very crisp and short. I don't want to let the remaining people wait for long. So, in terms of introduction, my name is Nikhil Moghe. I'm a partner. I lead the low carbon fuels practice for KPMG in India, which essentially I look into the biofuel space, hydrogen and gas LNG sector. Mr. Goud.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sridhar. I am Executive Director handling supplies, operation, distributions and biofuels in Hindusthan Petroleum Corporation.
Good evening, everybody. I am Amit Agrawal, Senior Vice President, Bajaj Hindusthan Sugar Limited. I would say that ethanol is my core competency. I've been dealing with the subject for the last 25 years. Other than that, I look after sugar trade also. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. This is Sanjay Khatal. I'm the Managing Director of the Maharashtra State Cooperative Sugar Factories Federation. As you know, Maharashtra is one of the important states which has a lot of cooperative sugar mills, almost 107 out of the 217 which undergo crushing operations, crushing almost 50% of the sugar cane and 52% of the sugar that is produced. I also head the Cogeneration Association of India as its Director General, and we basically work into bagasse-based cogeneration on policy advocacy issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Awasthi ji.
I'm Sanjay Awasthi. I'm the chairman of International Society of Sugarcane Technologists. Besides that, I'm the elected president of Sugar Technologists Association of India. I am also running a company, ISSCT. I am chief executive. We are the largest sugar mill and distillery and boiler power plant supplier in the world. We are present in 91 countries. And my company is about 8,000 crores turnover. And in India, most of the big name, to name any sugar mill, which is famous and doing well, we have done it. And it's almost 90 years in this business. I myself in this sugar industry for 35 years. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's an illustrious introduction. So what we'll do is maybe we'll go ahead and have one round of introduction and then see one round of questions, and then we'll see how this discussion flows. And since this is predominantly on the ethanol side, we'll stick to ethanol more than the sugar, and how sugar industry is linked with the ethanol side, right? So maybe Sanjay ji, I'll come to you first. In terms of the overall ethanol blending program of the government of India, how do you see it? How do you see the success of it? What are the factors that have made it successful?
It's been very interesting. See, the ethanol blending program is something which was not very new for the country. It was there since 2003-04 onwards. But it lacked the inertia that has come into existence only after 2017-18. So essentially from 2017-18, what was the problem for the sugar industry in terms of excess of sugar? How do we take care of that? So that led to a situation where we ensure that the sugar mills no longer remain sugar mills, but they convert themselves into bioenergy hubs. Cogeneration was already there. To complement that, there was a big potential for the byproduct like molasses getting converted into ethanol without any issues of food versus fuel. So now with that in place, the biofuel policy of the government of India also happened to come in 2018. And I think these were the two key drivers which led to a national initiative which was adequately backed by the government. And therefore, this program really took off in a big way from 2018 onwards. And therefore, we must admittedly say that it has been excellently successful till date. And now, simply saying that is not important. If you see at the figures, they speak for themselves. In 2018-19, from something like 173 crores, we are today at almost 413 crores of ethanol. So that's almost a 138% rise over from where we started in 2018. We have graduated from C molasses to B heavy molasses and to sugarcane juice and syrup. So that was a big take again for the ethanol success story. Moving beyond that, if I speak for Maharashtra, because we have almost 217 mills in Maharashtra, and we have got an adequate number of distilleries and ethanol plants also. So speaking for Maharashtra alone, from 95 plants, we have graduated to like 137 plants. So addition of almost 44% by way of 42 plants. In terms of capacities, we have increased from 113 crores to 312 crores. So putting an additional capacity of 176%, which is almost 200 crores plus. Maharashtra, under the Government of India interest subvention scheme, we've got 337 projects which have been sanctioned and involving a capex of almost something like 22,000 crores. The interest support, subvention support will be something like 2,900 crores. And most of the sugar mills have jumped into this. They have taken the initiatives. The projects are getting into place. So all in all, this has led to a situation wherein in 2018 we were something at 4.24%. And from there today we have graduated to almost 11.72%. So the roadmap has been very clear. Government on day one from 2017 onwards established a clear roadmap as to how it would go about with the ethanol blending program. So I feel it's been a huge success and the success will continue to grow.
Yeah, no, thank you. And if I'm not wrong, this is one of the, or the only government program where the targets have been achieved before what they were set out for, right? Because otherwise what we see is, the targets are, they get kept pushing later on, right?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because we have for the first time the oil marketing companies who have come in place and declared their procurement program for the next 5 years. So yeah, that's been a very interesting part of this entire story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Amitji, I'll come to you from a private sector sugar industry perspective. How do you see the role of sugar industries in boosting this entire program? Because press mud is something that is there, and then the other, raw material that goes into the ethanol production. So how do you see a private sector, from a private sector lens, how does it support?
Well, as far as sugar sector contribution towards ethanol is concerned, I would like to start with certain figures regarding the ethanol supplies from the sugar sector. Like in 2013-14, this supply was mere 0.4 billion liters. And last year, we could achieve supply of 3.7 billion liters from sugar sector itself. 2022-23, the total ethanol supply was 5 billion liters and 75% came from the sugar sector. 25% came through the syrup route and 50% came through the B heavy molasses route. Sugar sector and ethanol both go hand in hand. In fact, we all know that the program was started, I would say, for sugar sector. It was started by sugar sector. It was started with sugar sector. Very interestingly, In 1940s, one of our distillery, Gola distillery, from there we supplied alcohol blended petrol to army in 1940s. We all know that, like I said, 25 years experience. So remember, since 2001, supplying ethanol for pilot project and getting strengthened to 5% in 9 states, 4 UTs, to 2003, 2006 to 20 states, and then till 2014, getting spread all across. I would say that comparatively better placed. In fact, I was reading that the water consumption per liter of ethanol is also low from sugar as compared to Nikhil. I have report also says that. So there are inherent advantages, and we see a big potential in future also from sugar. Till 2023, yes, we have done well, sugar industry as a whole. Future, depending upon crop, has a big potential. It just needs hand-holding from the government side whenever we have such kind of dips. Thank you.
Yeah, no, indeed. So for ethanol success story, indeed, sugar is a key hero in that entire story. And, like you said, and you shared the numbers, it indeed is a major factor of and a major component of the ethanol industry. Sridhar, I'll come to you, from a government perspective, HPCL being a public sector undertaking, you work very closely with MOPNG, the policies that are being drafted, the industry feeds into those policy elements. You would have seen this entire policy paradigm also changing over the years, right? So from that angle and from an OMC's perspective, how do you see this entire story unfolding, right? So from certain amount to this amount what we have, and the targets that we have, so E20, E35, there have been talks of going on E65. So how do you see this happening?
So, if you see the ethanol blending, it is one area which I have seen. Everyone has contributed, which has led to this success. If you see particularly the oil marketing companies, while they have the refineries which they produce gasoline and gas oil, both. But in India, if we see overall, gasoline is a deficit, even now and going forward also. So the ethanol, when it has come into the picture, so initially up to 2017, 2018, there also, it was taken as a directive from the government, and then the blending program was going on. But thereafter, the potential of this ethanol was realized, because currently between, like last year, we have received nearly 500 crore liters of ethanol, both from sugar, cane, as well as the grain based. So you can imagine 506 crores, 5 liter of gasoline being replaced. So if it was supposed to get imported from any other country, because gasoline, I said, it is deficit, if we had to import, it would have cost us very exchequer, it would have been very heavy on us. So from that point of view, the blending program, it is really a program where every stakeholder, including the farmers, or the sugar mills, or the grain-based distilleries, all, including the OMCs, everyone is getting the benefit out of this program. Now, going forward, also I see this program touching the targets given by the government with respect to the E20 particularly. So, like last year, if you had seen, we had already achieved 12%. And currently, if you see as of January, and compare it with last year receipts, last year we received around 80 crore liters. And this year we have already received 86 crore liters, despite of all the things which were there. So I see this ethanol blending program as a very, very positive one, which has helped. And one more thing, if you have to see, while Brazil took some amount of time in overcoming, in achieving what they are, now they are currently at E27. So we have come up May 1920 to current year, our increase in ethanol blending percentage was very phenomenal. And going forward also, in fact, while E20 is there up to 25-26, somewhere in between 24-25, we will also see E27 and higher blends coming up. In fact, E85 also coming up in India very fast. So with respect to this E20 program particularly, while we have the vehicles which are compatible, they are started manufacturing E20 compatible vehicles right from the April 23 onwards. But there are many more vehicles which are still not compatible with the E20. So for that also, in fact, with the help of the government, we are tying up with some of the manufacturers where we have this flex fuel kits, which if we fit onto the vehicle, it can take up to E85%. And for that, in fact, the testing is going on in ARAI. So once those results come out, and I am very hopeful that the leap will be very fast from current 12% to 20% within 25 itself.
Yeah, in fact, I still remember in the last year's India Energy Week, they had actually displayed this E85 flex fuel kit, and it's like a very small kit that we have seen. So I think it's good to know that, the testing is going on, because that will create a transformational impact in the blending program, right? Then it's not the question of engines, right? The demand will already be there. So it's about the supply then. So the pressure would be on the supply side rather than from the demand side. So on that front, maybe I'll come to you, Awasthi ji. Technological innovations generally play a major role in any industry, right? And for any area, the tipping point is when the technology is established and it has reached its maturity level, right? So how do you see the journey of technology happening in the sugar industry per se, and what does it has an impact on the ethanol as well, right? So ethanol technologies or even sugar industry technologies, how do you see this journey happening, and what are the innovations that are happening that can actually help and support this entire ethanol blending program?
Right. This ethanol making or alcohol making is probably one of the oldest technology, probably 160 and maybe even more years back. The fermentation was home to home kind of a thing, and people used to make, ferment things. So fermentation is a very old technology, but since it has got an impetus from government policies in 2017, before 2017, if I talk of 2 decades, there was hardly 4 or 5 distillery projects came in 2 decades. Whereas once this program and government favorable policy came, this petrol blending program, then in my opinion, we were counting and still counting that the quantity has gone more than 230 projects in just last 7-8 years. And beside that, there are expansions also in old 125 distilleries. So we are very close to 350, and we are getting, we are counting. Every day there are new projects. Still 20, 30, 40 inquiries are there in the pipeline. With this, there was a scope, because when there was no business, there was hardly any scope to, modernize or do some technological evolution in this. But yes, in last 7 years itself, I must say that it has taken a big step, and we are in now, I can say, in position that not only ethanol, of course, ethanol is the main thing, but not only ethanol, the sugar industry has reached to a situation where probably sugar has become a byproduct, and there it becomes a biorefinery, which can produce so many things. You see, bagasse is full of carbon. So bagasse has n number of carbon, which gives you lignin and cellulose and hemicellulose. You can make furfural out of it, graphene oxide from out of it, jeans. There are, cutlery is being made out of it. So various revenue streams and various technology, biodegradable plastic is there which can, biodegrade in just less than 3 weeks. So there are so many things which are coming up, new technologies. If I only concentrate on ethanol, then in ethanol itself, the steam consumption of the plants has reduced to almost 40% from what it was in 8 years back. There was, I don't think there was any factory who was doing dehydration, means final step of making ethanol from RS. So it was on 3.5 kg per centimeter square pressure of steam. Whereas now most of the factories are doing this process also in 1.5 kg. Although I am a boiler manufacturer also, but I am very bullish that within few years we will be able to set up a factory, distillery, making ethanol without a boiler. Because the new technology of MVR, mechanical vapor recompression, is coming, wherein you can use vapor can be recompressed and again the same amount of steam can be produced. Hardly 7 to 8% because when enthalpy is increasing, then you have a loss of 6 to 8% of the steam. So that mass you have to, you have to add every time because in enthalpy rise that has been lost in the process. So it is because of the Boyle's law. I don't want to go to the detail of that. But in short, I can say that by use of MVR, you can eliminate boiler. The whole process steam requirement is hardly 2.7 to 2.8 liters kg per liter, which can be produced from solar itself because the pressure required is only 1.5 kg per centimeter square. It's not that like sugar mill where you are producing very high pressure steam for the turbine for making electricity. And the way the prices are going and we are now #1 in the solar power in the world, and there are a lot of non-conventional power sources being added by the government. Government has a lot of policy, this 1 crore houses of solar every year. So that means we are going to become surplus in power in each and every states of India. And we will be having a situation where this industry can also run on the power of the grid. So you don't need to produce power. So these are the few technological and these kind of things are getting, which not only reduce your OPEX, but CAPEX also. Because boiler is the major chunk of, the investment in any project. So beside this, the quality of ethanol, the fermentation efficiency, the distillation efficiencies, equipment designs, incineration, zero liquid discharge. There are so many technologies which are coming up. And as a byproducts of distillery, you can make CO2, you can produce from CO2 gas also, you can use engines for making electricity, CO2 engines. Then you can also have what you call potash making, fertilizer making plant from the ash of the boiler. So there are n number of possibilities which are evolving, and every day we are doing a lot of R&D on this to see that more revenue streams are added to the industry, and industry has a bigger product basket as a the complex and can earn more out of this. We cannot always ask government to give us favorable policies. We have to be self-sustainable.
Correct. And, in terms of technology, always, and like you rightly said, now we have reached a stage where, more and more investments into R&D can go in. You're already doing it. And like you rightly said, everything that comes out of sugar industry is of value now today, right? Press mud 5 years down the line versus press mud now, it's a golden commodity. Everybody is running behind it, right? So absolutely correct. And once we see these technological interventions happening within the plant itself. And like you said, it was a revelation for me that, you don't need a boiler, right? So something that of that nature will actually change the entire systems, right? People would want to do and bring in more efficiency in that sense. Maybe I'll talk to you on the sidelines on 2G, but topic is not on 2G, but that is also an interesting area that, maybe we can...
I can shortly say about it.
Yeah.
2G is still under evaluation stage, I must say. The first plant I saw about 7-8 years back in Piracicaba, Brazil, that plant, recently I have been again there, still plant is running, but they are, despite of selling on a very high price in US, they buy the most of the ethanol from 2G is on preferential prices. I've forgotten the price, but I think it's $3.5 per liter. Yes, that's my backup from memory. When I have been there, that's $3.5 US is buying from that plant. And still that plant is in loss. The first one in India is in IOCL Panipat, which we are running. So we are operating that plant as a operation and maintenance contractor over there of IOCL. And while running that plant is still, it's not, I'm sorry to say that more than 30% capacity.
Yeah, I got to know that. Yeah.
And whatever ethanol is being produced in batches, not very frequent operations, very regular operations are not there because of parali milling is not,
correct.
The trash which they
correct,
are
correct.
mulching, and that process is not foolproof yet. So any technology in evaluation stage take time, and not only it is being evaluated, but it evolves also, because you see that each and every unit operation get not only economical, but at the same time foolproof also.
Yes.
While developing any technology, so it is nothing new than any other one. Probably it may take little more time.
Yeah.
Than because of the capex and opex,
Got it.
which was very high. So for the time being, a honest technical opinion that in general discussion it should be in a passing way, because it's not really the immediate future what I feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, indeed. Sanjay, I'll come to you again. In terms of the overall state cooperatives and their association and their inputs, how do you see that gelling well with the ethanol industry? And when I say ethanol, it's mostly the corporates, right? So state cooperative, corporates, how does it work? PPP model. Do you see this happening, as in, because people have their apprehensions?
It's a very good question. See, cooperatives have had a very important place from 1952 onwards, when the focus of the government was to ensure that the economy runs on the three pillars: the private sector, the government sector, as well as the cooperative sector. But admittedly, it is a fact that over the past some years, the cooperative movement has taken a setback. But when we see the sugar industry per se, as on date, out of the 536 mills which are normally under crushing year on year, there are almost 199 mills which are from the cooperative sector. And these 199 mills together ensure a crushing of something like 30% of the total crushing that happens in the country. The total capacity of these 536 mills is something like 27 lakh tons per day, out of which almost 10 lakh tons is being contributed by the cooperative sector. Yes, cooperative sector as of late in the sugar industry is largely centered and focused in the states of Maharashtra and Gujarat per se. UP, we have a large number of private mills. So I think cooperatives do have a very important role to play in this entire game of sugar, as well as ethanol, CBG too, and the other host of energy sources that we are seeing from the sugar industry. Now, prominently we have to understand that the government have now instituted a separate Ministry of Cooperation under the very able leadership of Mr. Amit Shah. who is totally focused on how you'd like to take the cooperative movement, in the development process of India and ensure a sizable contribution in the Indian economy. So I think this is one of the important factors which has recently taken shape. And in days to come, I do feel that we will see a major role for the cooperatives in this entire program. We have seen a lot of success stories in the cooperative sector. You see the fertilizer giants like Kripco and IFFCO. They have made, they have made a very big impact in the Indian economy in terms of, the fertilizer productions, the new products that they have given to the farmers, the type of economic scales that they are, ensuring year on year. You have the success story of Amul also, which again is a cooperative movement working in the, food processing industry. So all in all, I feel the cooperative industry, sooner or later, we might probably see a big conglomerate coming in the sugar sector also, just like we have the IFFCOs and the Kripcos and the Amuls, which have played a prominent role. I see a good future for the cooperative movement because it makes a lot of sense to the farmers per se. They have a lot of belief in the cooperative system. The cooperative system is also ensuring that it plays a responsible role in the overall scheme of the government, direction and focus. It's not that it's only a profit-oriented enterprise which is happening. It tries to make sense in terms of all the stakeholders. And I think cooperatives will have a definitely good role to play in this entire game of scheme of things.
Thank you. One question I'll have, and maybe it's not a question, but if you were to choose two things that you would want to ask government, two things, only two things, in short, what would those be?
I would say that not too much of interference into certain issues which can squarely be dealt by the industry per se.
Okay.
Like for example, the recent decision of the 7th and the 15th of December, which has come as a knee-jerk reaction to certain, figures which have honestly been distorted.
Correct.
The figure distortions definitely have not from the government and they have come from the industry, so the industry is to be equally blamed for that. But all in all, what I feel is, given the confidence with which the sugar industry has entered into the bioenergy sector, I think government needs to be slightly careful in dealing, with certain policy decisions, because it sends jitters down your spine with so much of investment coming, and when such policy decisions come in, I think it's not only the sector which gets affected, but even the financial institutions which have ensured funding. Because, one of the major bottlenecks that we saw when the ethanol program took up was funding was an issue, despite the interest subvention scheme coming in. And the Indian Bankers Association were not too very comfortable as to how sustainable this program is going to be. Now, if we see, it is a sustainable program, because nowhere year before we have seen such a good amount of synergy between the different departments of the government. We also have the automobile industry on board. So all in all, each and every stakeholder, whether they are oil marketing companies, whether it's the government, whether it's the sugar sector, whether it's the automobile manufacturers association, all in all, everybody is on board and everybody is synergizing to ensure that it is a success.
Yeah.
The story is there to see. We have saved nothing less than 50,000 crores of foreign exchange. I think that's a huge game.
Yeah, it's a big game.
Yeah, so 82% of our crude we still import.
Correct.
Nothing less than 16 lakh crores of rupees getting into the foreign exchange. So I think it's going to be a big game changer.
Yeah.
Government needs to ensure that it does not interfere by way of knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah, so the message is clear. Like, one, don't interfere. Second, if you want to interfere, please consult.
So, certain decisions could possibly have been taken with, better amount of coordination with the sector.
Got it.
And at the beginning of the, so the industry would have been more geared up to face the challenge.
Yeah, point taken.
Yeah.
Amitji, what about you? Two key points that you would want to maybe, just talk about.
I agree that point one, that whatever decision coming in from the government, means it should not be in haste and should be, though I'm sure that they take data at their end, but should be, duly supported by detailed research, discussion with industry. This decision of 7th and 15th December is indeed a problem. And like in the beginning, I said that it has been a spirit dampener, and in fact, it was not expected. It was not expected. Industry was not prepared for this, and it had its own problems, issues. Be it with continuing, means with some of the sugar mills continuing had become an issue. Time to time we feel that, there are delays. Now in the beginning, like I said, that price for syrup ethanol and B heavy ethanol, like, no decision is there on the pricing part for this year. Last year, only the syrup ethanol price was not viable, and there were representations from the industry side. This year, there is increase in cane price also, which is the basic cost for syrup ethanol. If we talk in terms of numbers, FRP increases by almost 3%, and I come from UP, so UP, there is SAP, stated by price, so increase is almost double, 6%. So we need to be duly compensated. So basically, if you want to confine me to two, so these two.
Okay. So essentially, again, we are saying that one, if you're taking decision, take a considerate view, and second, address the delays, because that actually impacts, right? And considerate view, because, it impacts everything down under, right? Even the financing community for that matter, because that is unfortunately very sad part that, the financing community outside the country views us as a country which keeps on changing policy. So maybe, that should not happen, and the messages should not go in. Sridharji, I'll come to you from a off-taker's perspective. How do you see this? So any two things that you would want, and I don't want to put you on spot because it's a public sector undertaking, so I don't want you to say something which is against the government or for government, but what is your view in general to see how this sector would go?
No, in fact, government has supported, that is why we are come up to 12%. But I see ethanol, we have biodiesel as well as ethanol in the country, biofuels. So I see ethanol having a lot of potential. So while we are talking about ethanol as a fuel for the transportation sector, as a blended fuel, we also are seeing ethanol as a sustainable aviation fuel, conversion of, so if you, that is why sir also was telling, if you see in future, I would see a sugar mill producing sugar less, more ethanol, then a conversion to CBG also would be there from there. And I also would see some of the plants who have got good potential converting the ethanol to sustainable aviation fuel. So sustainable aviation fuel, I see India being as a demand center and supply center also, because we have the amount of ethanol quantity, the prospective project proponents who are setting up. Last time when we released the expression of interest, 131 were there. Now this time also we have got good response. So while the quantity required for ethanol blending is 1016, but it would be 1500 crore liters or even more. So I see one ethanol sugar mills are the plants converting the ethanol into the sustainable aviation fuel, which fetches good amount in the international market, because even here also government is considering putting up 1% mandate for from the 25. Second area where I see the potential of ethanol is supplementing as a cooking fuel. So ethanol has got also potential, though its calorific value is less as compared to LPG, but it can definitely supplement the cooking area also, though it will not replace LPG, but definitely it will supplement. These are the two things which we see as of now, apart from the blended transportation fuel, which have got good potentials and good future also.
Yes, and so basically this is like ethanol phase 2, right? When you look at more and more ethanol getting converted into SAF, because the Corsia guidelines says that 25th, I think it's a voluntary 1%, and 26th it's a mandatory 1% for us. So, you know, anything that comes in, our flights going outside, we have to have that blend. Awasthi, I'll come to you now, and I will propose something, and you tell me whether it makes sense or it's an idiotic proposal. Don't you think that we should have an R&D set up, maybe backed up by government, to look at more advanced technologies being worked upon? Because what I understand, and pardon my ignorance, we are looking at technologies which are specialized advanced biofuel technologies, and the pathways are predominantly from abroad, right? So when I talk of drop-in fuels, you know, this I can't say that it's a pure play indigenous technology, right? So don't you think that we should have a full-fledged R&D center here, which government should fund to enable this? Because end of the day, if government is seeking at or looking at having, you know, ethanol production to curb on the crude imports, and it is end of the day helping government, that's it, and for us as well, right? So.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. Actually, today it's a very fragmented way. It is being done. R&D is being done. There are, private companies, suppliers, who have their R&D center like we have our own. And we do a lot of experiments on this new technologies. Similarly, there are associations like ISMA, our Sugar Technologists Association, which fund R&D project in different factories and in National Sugar Institute or VSI. So it is being done, but as you are saying, that if it can be done on a concentrated way and in a, bigger way by the government of India, giving some subsidy and support to this particular function, and where industry as well as these associations are the partner of that program, where we can definitely bring these technologies in an Indianized and cheaper way. Reason being, as he said, that sustainable aviation fuel, where yield is only 0.62% of ethanol, so the cost has to be more, the prices has to be more, and then again it's not pure indigenous technology. Similarly, 2G, where we are struggling, then there are so many feedstock. Honestly speaking, 12% was a easy road. Getting 90% is very easy, but 90 to 99 or 98 to 99% marks, that is the challenge. So real challenge will come right now, where you have said that syrup is not allowed. B heavy is also being, having a hanging sword on it. So you don't know actually, and right from this point of the time, government has to sit with the associations and plan out how much syrup they can allow. Because at the end of the day, under Essential Commodity Act, you have to secure food versus fuel. Absolutely. You have to secure food. So your sugar consumption is 28 million tons. You should secure first that. Yes. And then there is rest which you can allow, because there is a lot of investment has been done on your behest of policies on making ethanol from syrup. So they should be allowed, one. Secondly, the grain, this situation will come in a year or two. Correct. You are saying we will support maize, we will support rice, we will support X and blah, blah. But tomorrow again they say they are all things are under Food Essential Commodity Act. If we have less to feed 1.4 billion people, first priority is these people, absolutely, our population. Absolutely. Then you will also have sudden break over there. So they have to think, this is the amount of surplus grain which is being allocated for ethanol making or SAF or whatever. And if it is less to get the 20%, then this is our policy, where you can, the private factories or cooperatives are free to import grain from outside, which will only be used by undertaking that for it is only for ethanol, correct. Not for the sale in the market as a food. Because as far as food is concerned, we are Atmanirbhar. We don't need any grain from outside.
Absolutely.
So these kind of things should be done right from now onwards.
Correct.
So, in my opinion, R&D and setting up this kind of a centralized cell who should monitor the total grain and sugar for the food versus how much can be given, allocated to the factories for making ethanol or other things.
Yeah.
So this is two suggestions. I want to add one more than R&D.
Yeah, no, so, which is very good. So federal government-driven R&D center, which will actually help, and all the R&D that is being happening can be a part of it. Why I was saying so, and how did it came to my mind was because you would have read and heard about the National Hydrogen Mission. There is a huge allocation, budgetary allocation been given for R&D in hydrogen. So why not for this one, right? Because this is in advanced stages, right? This needs now. Hydrogen is still 3-4 years hence, right? So that is one. And second, it's a very good idea of having a kind of a central body which looks after the allocation of grains, or for that matter, even the fluids going into. Because what will happen is, like you said, going to 90 is fine, but 90 to 95, for every drop, you will have to extract more, right? Efficiency has to increase. So how do it increase? It increases through R&D. You have a point.
Yeah, Nikhil, just to supplement what you are saying and what Sanjay ji is saying, I think it's easily doable. Probably you don't require a separate subsidy for this, research initiative. We have already had the SDF funds in which, some amount of per ton deduction was being done. Yeah, it stopped. But that was happening where the money was coming from the industry being plowed back to the industry. So a similar situation where you have a ethanol research fund, which you take from the industry, but ensure that it is deployed only for the research initiatives that need to be taken forward. That is one thing. And very importantly, despite the decision of the being that of the government to stop the syrup and juice to ethanol, I think the industry is also to equally take a big blame. I'm making a very bold and blunt statement on this forum. See, we've got quite a big number of mills, almost 32 to 34 in this country, which, went overboard and, set up the sugar plants which don't have the capacity to produce sugar, but they can, simply mill the juice and the syrup. So I think this is one important area why the panic has really exponentially increased. And to that extent, I believe that blame has to be taken by the industry. Because despite this decision coming, probably these units, which today are not in a position to produce sugar, they have got the permissions from the state governments and from the government of India for their IEMs to increase the sugar capacity. And they have created the sugar capacity without the sugar getting produced. So this is a very quixotic approach that has been taken up. In the Brazil, you have a switch-on, switch-off model. Yeah. You either produce the sugar or you either produce the ethanol. The option is yours. But today we have got some such mills because of which the panic has driven up, where they are today not in a position to produce sugar despite having increased the capacity. I think this is very serious, and the industry needs to take note of this.
No, it's an important point, and maybe with that note, we'll end this. It's an interesting topic for me. I'm still a student of this industry. You guys are all stalwarts, but I promised Uppal that we'll close on time. We are 3 minutes over, but let's close this. Thank you so very much for having you here. A round of applause for everyone here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to our panelists. जो भी यहाँ पर एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए for yourselves also for waiting till the very end. Thank you very much. And I'd like to invite Mr. Naik Navre to please come up and present a token of our appreciation. Sir, patkan 2 minutes to our panel.